Why we love Back to the Future, 40 years of fandom, flux capacitors, and timeless adventures. I mean, this movie does not get old. One of the few movies not to have been remade in the 2000s because of its just classic period piece theme. Why are people still in love with this movie?
Man, it's generational, Jose. It's one of those movies that you can watch with your, eldest family member or youngest family member, and you have the same enjoyment out of it every single time. And the thing is, the concept, the heart of this movie, the way that it came about was Bob Gale had this idea. What happened? He found his father's yearbook, and he said, "What would happen if I went to school with my dad? Like, would we have been friends? Would we have liked each other? Like, if my parents and I were the same age, how would that be?" And that was the question that was asked. And you know what? They turned it into what I consider the greatest film trilogy of all time. And time travel, everyone has a fascination with, especially during this period, going back forward. And the DeLorean is just cool as all hell. So there's so many reasons why people still love this movie and love all these movies so many years later.
And I mean, a lot of things had to fall into place because what people don't realize was Michael J. Fox was not the original star character. So a lot of things have to really
He
fall
was
in
not.
place.
Yeah, so much had to fall in place. Originally, they cast Eric Stoltz, who's a fine actor. They shot with him, Jose, for 8 weeks. They got to the point of the movie where it was like, hey, we're wrapping up. What else you got up next? What are you doing? What are you working on? They thought they were all done and planning their next move. And then one night, Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, who Bob Gale, co-creator of Back to the Future, they all assembled on the Universal lot and said, "Look, we're going to have to let Eric go because we're not getting the jokes that we want. The movie's not hitting in the same way that we want it to." And they made the decision to go back to Michael J. Fox, ask Gary Goldberg, who's the producer of Family Ties, which Michael J. Fox was the star on at the time as Alex P. Keaton. They asked him, "Hey, can we get Michael?" And they said yes, so long as he still puts Family Ties first. So Michael J. Fox was filming Family Ties in the day, shooting Back to the Future at night, and in July 3rd, 1985, when audiences first flocked to see this time travel story in theaters, Michael J. Fox had the number one movie and number one television show in the country.
Mm. Oh, and then I was watching this great YouTube video on the psychology saying that like the 2000s to 2010s and even now have been all really a big blur. But this movie came out 40 years ago and it stood the test of time. It's a movie about in the 80s, but about the 50s. What is it about the 50s that people love and can still go back to, like, maybe a quieter time?
Well, it was a quieter time, but it was also the rise of the teenager. Before then, there wasn't really the characterization of teenager as we know it, and they hit on it in the movie where you go where they're all at Lou's Cafe and they're hanging out after school, and their rock and roll started to come in the mid '50s. Elvis and Chuck Berry a little bit before Elvis, but Elvis put out "That's All Right" in 1954, and we really started getting going, and skateboarding and all these things started in this 1950s. So that was kind of where teenagers began. And to me, everyone can relate to being the guy who wants to ask out the hottest girl in school and can't do it, doesn't have the courage to. And then it's great that Marty kind of gives his dad the talk that a dad would give to a son in order to go and get Lorraine and ask her to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. There's those universal themes. And then you just add this fantastical element of time travel, which everyone has thought about. Hey, if I could go back and do this, or if I could live to see 200 years into the future, I wonder what would happen. There's that universal themes and these fantastical elements, which has just kept this movie so much in the pop culture conversation.
Now, what would be your argument for not making a remake of this movie?
So I actually don't have an argument to not remake the movie. I'm one of the few Back to the Future loyalists who say, "Hey, look, I'm up for, as long as the Bobs are involved. That's Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis, the creators of Back to the Future. As long as they're involved in some capacity, I'm all for it because I know they would steward the franchise in a positive direction. But like, if it's great, like for instance, I saw the Ghostbusters movie." Answer the Call, the one that had the all-female cast. And I was excited for a new Ghostbusters movie. And I went and saw it, and I didn't really like it. It had nothing to do with the cast being all female. I just didn't connect with the movie as much. And I thought, man, that sucks. I've been waiting so long for a great Ghostbusters movie, and this one just didn't hit the mark for me. But then I found out, Jose, that it didn't tamper my love at all for the original two Ghostbusters movies. It was then that I said, you know what? I'd be open to a new Back to the Future. If it's great, amazing. I have more Back to the Future in my life that I can dissect and talk about. If it's not great, I still have the original trilogy, which is perfect as it is.
Wow. So what can people expect out of this book? I mean, I know you can't share too many nuggets, but what should people expect from this book?
So, look, it's not just about the making of Back to the Future and its sequels. I mean, we definitely do that, but this book has several different layers to it. We talk about the making of the movies and the casting. We talk about the musical, which just started a few years ago. We talk about the animated series, the theme park attraction, the Back to the Future video game, the comic book series that came out. We dive into fan theories. We talk about Doc Brown's greatest inventions, what the future of Hill Valley might look like. So it's all compiled into this book. And, I've had the privilege of talking to Christopher Lloyd, Bob Gale, Bob Zemeckis, Leah Thompson, Crispin Glover, Jeffrey Weissman. Mikey Day from Saturday Night Live actually writes the foreword to the book. But I've talked to all these people over the years on my podcast about Back to the Future, and they've given me so much great nuggets and insight of information that I wanted to compile them in some kind of way. And that's what people can expect and why we love Back to the Future.
If you were to go back to the future to your younger days, what would you change about yourself or the advice you would give yourself right now?
You know what? The advice that I would give myself is just stay calm. Everything happens well when you just stay calm. Don't overreact. Don't underreact. Just stay level and everything's going to be all right. But I'm one of those guys who I start thinking about the butterfly effect. And if I go back, I don't want to change anything because you know what? We've all taken some lumps, some cuts, some bruises, but everything we're not makes us everything we are. So I wouldn't change a thing, but I would love to go into the future and see what it looks like. I just want to be an observer, fly on the wall. I don't want to cause any paradoxes or interrupt the space-time continuum, Jose, but I would love to see what the world looks like in 100 years.